What is going on, my super sandwiches? Rhymestyle here, and today I'm joined, the legend, the myth, the one and only Qaaman.
Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you another Dragon Ball Z segment with Rhymestyle on how rich is Goku's family. Now, they may sound like a very ambiguous topic, but we definitely think we have some facts to back it up. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. So Rhymestyle, what do you have to say about Goku's wealth?
Well, it's actually funny because everybody sees Goku as a hero, but no one's ever questioned how much money he has. Like, oh, well, you know, Bulma's rich, Goku's got rich too, he saves the universe all the freaking time. It's actually funny because Goku is broke. Like, he's really broke. And if we look at the end of Dragon Ball Z, we see Gohan at that point is becoming a scholar. He becomes a researcher or teacher or scientist, whatever. Many different things happen, I guess. At the end of Dragon Ball Z, he's becoming a scholar / researcher. And then in if we use GT for timeline purposes of knowing what Gohan does in the future, he is working with Bulma as a scientist type of thing. And also, if we're going to use another universe timeline, in Dragon Ball Online, he is also seen as a researcher because you see him write that book about how Ki works. So with that said, we know that Gohan essentially is kind of the moneymaker in the family later. Like, he basically goes to school because, I mean, we see Chi-Chi put him through crazy tutoring, which is, question is how the hell did they afford it? So with that said, how rich is Goku's family? So let's break it down. Qaaman, what do you have for us?
Well, the first thing I wanted to talk about is what is, you know, obviously the most clear-cut thing we have of evidence from the Yo-Son Goku and his friends return special, which some are not going to deem canon, some will, because you can argue that Battle of Gods carries Tarble off as an actual character.
And it fits it also fits the timeline because it happens technically after Dragon Ball Z ends. So it's like something that's only really questionable as canon or not, really, if it doesn't fit in a timeline anymore. I would say. I mean, you could argue that, you know, it's canon only if Toriyama says so, but then again, we have manga canon, we have anime canon, and technically, this kind of will be canon because again, Goku. Toriyama mentions Tarble as a character. He writes Tarble into a character into Battle of Gods, which is a canon movie. So it's like, well, if Tarble was introduced in Yo-Son Goku Returns, this happens after Dragon Ball Z ends, then in a way, this special might be canon. But the interesting thing about this movie is it's revealed that around then, Goku and Chi-Chi become radish farmers, which is actually funny because we're going off the whole vegetable theme, and, you know, they're planting radishes. They become radish farmers, which we know makes about 10 to 20K a year, which is not that much. But because of the land that they live in, they probably have very rich, I'd say soil or whatever. Basically a very nice area to farm, and because of that, we probably place Goku and Chi-Chi as top tier radish farmers, which again is not that much. It's just barely over the poverty line. But the question is if we're gonna go back, and what did basically Goku and Chi-Chi do for the, I guess, first 18 years of their marriage? That's the big question. And well, Qaaman, do you want to take that one?
Well, yes. Well, we know for sure from Dragon Ball that when Goku in the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, the one he actually won against Piccolo Jr., he actually won 500,000 zeni, if that's the correct number. I'm pretty sure it's 500,000 zeni. And, you know, a lot of people make jokes about that, saying how will that carry out throughout the years. But, you know, when you consider it, the type of lifestyle that Goku's family has, with the exception of food, you can argue that they don't have a very, very high standard of living as compared to others. So I definitely think that the money that Goku made can carry over. Now, obviously Goku eats a lot, so, you know, you have to factor that out. But Rhymestyle, I actually thought about this, something we didn't mention off the air, is that Goku was dead for a lot of those years that the money, you know, carried over. Because you remember, Dragon Ball Z only takes place 5 years after the end of Dragon Ball. I'm 99% sure it's 5 years. So if Dragon Ball Z takes place 5 years after the events of Dragon Ball, Goku's obviously alive for that point. Then, you know, when Goku died against Raditz, and then, you know, the whole thing with Namek and all of that, that's a lot of time that Goku's not home. So really, that money could have been well invested into, you know, taking care of their needy deeds.
Well, what I see that as is remember, Chi-Chi did hire the top tier tutors to teach Gohan, which must have been a lot of money, because remember, they lived in middle of nowhere, so they must have paid a lot of money to get the best tutors to come every single weekend or every day or whatever it was. And on top of that, when he grows up, he also goes in high school, which is pretty far away, and it was pretty like a rich part, you know, of the city. So they must have shelled out a lot more money for Gohan's education than actually food overall, because I mean, to go to school is pretty expensive.
Well, I will say really quickly that, I mean, that was filler, but I definitely see your point. They definitely had to pay a lot of money to afford, you know, tutors, because I mean, even though it was filler, we can assume that Gohan definitely had tutors, and especially with the Orange Star High School, because I mean, essentially Gohan's commuting, so that's a lot of distance, and if that's a school that Videl goes to, you gotta assume that why would Hercule, you know, have his child in a mediocre school, and why would Chi-Chi send Gohan to a mediocre school? So it's assumed, you know, that Orange Star High School is very, you know, prestigious, even though it wasn't really exaggerated in the series. So with that exception, that shows that, you know, Goku and Chi-Chi obviously have a lot more money than what we would expect. Now, I do want to point out that Chi-Chi has said in Dragon Ball Z, and I've been looking for so long to find exactly what point it was. Can somebody mention me in the comment? But she said for sure that she's sick and tired of asking her dad, Ox King, for money. And Rhymestyle and I thought about it, and we realized that Ox King has a lot more money than, you know, we think he does, because considering the fact that in Dragon Ball, you remember, his castle burned down, and he actually got another one. And
Twice.
Exactly. So to get another castle, it cost significant money, and you know, in the area he lived in, there was lots of jewelry and stuff, and a lot of treasures. So Ox King was a lot wealthier than what we would expect him to be. Now, what I also wanted to point out is, you also got to consider a lot of the other friends that Goku has. Now, you wanted to talk more about, you know, Goku's actual friends in terms of their monetary power, Rhymestyle?
Yeah, because I want to mention, because again, this goes back to the whole, you know, idea of seeing these guys as heroes, but end of the day, they have regular ass jobs. When you become a superhero, you don't get like a random paycheck every 2 weeks, like, hey, thanks for saving the universe, here's your money. Looking at Krillin, for example, Krillin has been confirmed to be a police officer in this upcoming Dragon Ball Z movie. So it's like, even Krillin is, you know, struggling for money, which is funny because he, you know, he had his, you know, I guess the extortion we can say with Android 18. Yeah, so it's like even they're running out of money. So it's like, what do these people, like, why can't these people get paid for, you know, saving the universe? Now, something else I want to point out is Yamcha, which is funny because Yamcha is the most useless character in the entire series. Yamcha might actually be the most useful, well, second most useful when it comes down to money, because he was a baseball player. And I say second to Bulma, because Bulma is obviously the richest woman on Earth. In terms of money, like, Yamcha is probably the second most set character in the series.
Right, that's true. And, you know, I also wanted to point out another thing, even though it was also filler, you know, to support this a little bit more, they did buy a car, and, you know, cars aren't cheap. I mean, you gotta have some form of money to afford a car. So I think when you factor in all of the different things, like Gohan going to school, you know, the extortion of Goku having rich friends, that's another thing. If they ever really needed money, I mean, they have Bulma, who can give them like a penny that's worth like millions of zenny. So, you know, when you factor in all of that, I think that the series makes it seem as if, you know, Chi-Chi and Goku are a lot poorer than what we would expect. But when you actually consider the quality of their life and their very low standard of living, since they basically live in the middle of nowhere, I'm sure we can both agree that the series obviously hints that they have a lot more money than what we'd expect, especially Gohan.
Yeah, well, the way I see it is this. So, Goku wins the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament and gets 500,000 zenny. The next time we see them was, I believe, was a 25th tournament, right? That was 7 years after Boo, right? After Cell, correct? And around then, that's when we start running out of money. So between the 23rd World Tournament and the 25th, they must have blown through that 500,000 zenny. But the thing is even though we know that, you know, Chi-Chi can ask the Ox King, both Goku and Chi-Chi can also ask Bulma for money or even do something to make money, we know that they don't. You know, that it still goes back to the whole pride thing, where it's like we don't want to accept help, or we can still, you know, do it on our own. Which is why we see, you know, using this Yo Son Goku Returns movie as a special, we see them become radish farmers to kind of support their lifestyle at the end of the series. So in our reality, even though they kind of seem to have money, they don't really have any money. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the series, according to that movie, they're only making roughly about 10 to 20 grand a year, which is not that much. But then again, considering the fact that they don't have any bills, they own the house they live in, they have, you know, pretty much no electricity or nothing, no taxes, no nothing, you know, 10 to 20 grand a year is I guess, is livable. It's enough to feed both Goku, Gohan, and Goten. So I'd say it's not that bad.
One more final point that I wanted to bring up when you factor this all in is that when you look at Oob, remember at the end of the series how Oob was talking about, you know, how he wanted to, you know, support his family. That's why he joined the whole tournament, and Goku's like, oh, well, don't worry, Hercule has plenty of money. And, you know, he didn't mention Bulma, but obviously she does too. So that kind of was, I guess you could say, the closest to a hint that maybe Goku kind of indirectly admitted that, you know, Bulma and Hercule were somewhat supporting them to some degree, because you remember Gohan did marry Videl.
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true.
So I mean, by the end of Z, Goku's family's way more, way above average in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of income. So, I mean, and look at Vegeta too. I mean, he's a Saiyan prince. You think he would, you know, marry a poor woman? I mean,
Vegeta's chilling. Vegeta's eating like a king.
But how much do you think that equipment that he trains with is worth? I'm sure it's not cheap.
That's probably why he married Bulma out of anybody. you got money, Bulma. All right, let's do this. Like, it makes a lot of sense now. But it's funny because this is a random topic. Like, I mean, usually we're talking about, you know, fights and, like, you know, Kaioken was a Super Saiyan, and all of a sudden now we're talking about money. And the reason why I decided to do this conversation in the first place is because it's kind of a topic that people don't really think about. I mean, think about it. Like, between Dragon Ball all the way to basically, even if you even count GT, even in GT, we never see any of these guys work once. So it's like, how the hell are these people surviving? Like, do they just get free money? And I guess that kind of gives you a hint to know how wealthy both Goku and his family are, as well as the rest of the Z fighters. Well, other than Bulma, we know Bulma's rich. I mean, she was giving away like $1 million and castles at her birthday.
Exactly. I always found that always funny. Like, if you ever really need money, just ask Bulma. She won't feel it.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, this is Goku we're talking about. He does not accept, you know, stuff like that. Like, again, this goes back to the whole, hey, we're radish farmers. We're gonna do it on our own. We don't need your help just because, you know, we rather earn it on our own. Because I mean, that's Goku's character. It's always been his character.
But I mean, you got to consider. I mean, you know, he was essentially dead for a lot of those years. But I know we're approaching the end of this.
Easy for him.
I know we're approaching the end of this video, but I really wanted to point this out to a lot of our viewers here. I want to know, if you guys look at the whole situation, how much money do you actually think Goku and the rest of the Z fighters are worth in terms of saving the world? I mean, if Goku was a bad guy, do you realize that he could be as wealthy, even more wealthy than the Bulma's family? He could say, listen, I've been saving this world since I was a kid, alright? I deserve to have at least $10 quadrillion. And they could be like, well, what do you mean? Well, this whole planet would be destroyed if it wasn't for me. So I always felt that, you know, what Goku's done is essentially priceless for society.
Yep. 100%. 100%. With that said, guys, if you got this far in the video, let us know your own thoughts on the rest of the Z fighters in terms of, you know, what you think where they should be monetarily. And of course, if you had fun, if you enjoyed this quick fun fact about the Goku family, make sure you punch that like button right in the face. Check out Qaaman and vice versa. If you're on his channel, come over here. And yeah, we'll take it from there. You got anything else to say?
Yes, Rhymestyle, of course. You're gonna ask me if I have anything else to say, because this is my final words.
Final words.
Please remember.
Yes.
To rate, comment, and subscribe.
Okay, I will.
And remember, as I always say.
Okay, what do you always say?
In every single video.
In every single video.
To have.
Have what?
A great day, guys.
Oh, okay, I will do that.
See you, everyone.
Peace.